Hello, today we are talking about how we met.
Aww.
Please subscribe and hit the bell notification so you can be notified when we put up new videos. Hello, I am Tara, the author of the Dining on a Dime cookbook, where you can eat better, spend less. We have a new hardcover with full color pictures and over 1,200 recipes and tips to help you save money on your grocery bill. Check it out at livingonadime.com. Hello guys, today Mike and I are talking about how we met. We have been married 26 years.
Wow. Impressive.
That is impressive. And everybody keeps asking how we met, so we thought we would, as kind of part of our story, tell how we met. So, how did we meet? So, I was living in a little tiny town in Colorado, my little mountain house that I did my video on a couple videos back. And I was living there, and I worked at a flower shop for a little while. She went bankrupt, so then I went and worked for a fudge shop in downtown Estes Park called Fudge Works.
Yep.
I thought it was my dream job, working in a chocolate factory.
And this was in a cute little mountain town. It's like
Estes is a really cute. Yeah, it's one of those cutesy places, tourist place. Really, a lot of people when they come to Colorado, probably one of the main reasons they come to Colorado is to Estes Park, because there's really not a lot to do in Colorado, believe it or not. There's either skiing or Estes Park.
Estes Park is the gateway town to Rocky Mountain National Park.
Yeah.
So it's particularly a summer destination these days.
Yeah. So that was like my dream city. I always wanted to live there, live in the mountains. So I was living in the mountains, and then I didn't have enough money. So $300 a month was not, and yes, I know that's about $600 now, was not paying my bills. So I had to get something part-time. So I worked, I think it was just like 2 days a week at the fudge shop. So I was working with Mike's sister when I started. She was working there. And so we kind of got to be friends. And she decided to leave and move to Texas. And Mike came up because he was living down in Fort Collins. So he came up and came to have dinner with his family and say goodbye.
Yeah, mostly
Your sister.
I would come up anyway from the town where I lived to Estes Park because it was really pretty, and it was kind of a nice little way to spend days on the weekends. But my sister was leaving the next day to move back to Texas, where we grew up, and I just came to basically say goodbye. And I guess we were probably gonna eat or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, you guys were going out to dinner, I think.
Oh yeah, we did go out to dinner. Now that I think about it, because that's part of the story.
So that is how we met. He came up to say goodbye. I was doing ice cream, and I was serving ice cream, and he stood back, and then when the customers left, he came and started talking to me. You came to talk to your sister, but your sister didn't really talk to you very much. So then you started talking to me.
Yeah, kind of what happened is I was at a stage in life where I had some difficult experiences, and I was sort of in the I'm not dating stage. I'm not available. I'm not looking for anyone.
Well, he didn't have the best girlfriends because, you hadn't met me yet, so you didn't know what a good girlfriend was. So he'd sworn off girls and you weren't looking to date at the time.
No, in fact, if you've seen the homeless video, I had a lot of change in a short amount of time in my life. And so I had finally learned to get out on my own. I kind of had to really figure out the hard way fast how to support myself. I had some really difficult situations. And then I swore off of dating or anything like that for the time being. And so I was just coming up to see my sister just before she left, because I didn't know when I would see her again, and she was moving out of state. So I came, and of course, when I got to the fudge shop, I thought, wow, I love fudge shops, and it smells really good in here, and man, there's ice cream and everything else. And I went to go see my sister, and she said, well, I don't have time to talk to you right now. You just go over there and wait. I'm busy. So I was thinking, okay,
Okay.
well, I guess she's not in a very good mood today. So I went and I stood kind of on this back area. Well, Tara was back there. I don't know what you were doing. Was it working with ice cream or something like
Yeah.
that? And she had this apron on because she had been working on candy at some point. And and so I don't know how we started talking, but it was basically like, hey, oh hey, and pretty quickly we got into talking, and I was still waiting for my sister, but my sister just didn't have time for me. so I so we talked for
Probably an hour.
probably an hour,
Yeah.
and um, and during that time I was kind of getting all excited, and didn't I wasn't really thinking, I don't know, I wasn't thinking dating or whatever, but I just thought, oh wow, she seems really nice. Wow, it'd be nice to, maybe I could go out with somebody, um, and I thought I should ask her phone number or something like that. But I was kind of afraid because I was thinking, I don't know, am I really ready for this? And so I thought, well, I kept talking to her, and I thought, I guess I could go think about it, and then maybe come back and see if she's here on a different day. Although when I was younger, I had done that before, and I was always too afraid to go back and talk to somebody. But do you want
So
to say
you
anything else about while
left.
we were there?
Well,
Okay.
you left.
Yeah. I
And you didn't get my phone number. And I was like, oh man. And you were like, oh man.
well, I was going to say I could tell my part, and then you could tell.
Okay.
Well, you tell your
Well,
part,
you
and then I'll
tell
tell
your
my part.
part.
So I left, and then I was thinking, oh man, I can't believe I didn't ask her for her phone number, and that seemed like that was working out really well. Man, I just feel like, I don't know. I just kind of feel like I really shouldn't pass up this opportunity here. and and I was a baby Christian, and I kind of felt in that moment like God had told me this is the one. So I was thinking, well, if that's true, somehow this is going to work out. But wow, I don't know. I'm really afraid, and I should go back. I should go back. So I'll go back tomorrow. But I wasn't really sure if she would be there tomorrow. And then I went out to dinner with my family, basically because my sister was leaving. And I was just thinking, the whole time I was thinking, oh, I don't know. I can't believe I didn't. I'll have to go do that. I hope she works tomorrow. So I wasn't really thinking about what we were there for.
Oh, I had you smitten.
So now you tell your part, because my part's going to go after your part, I think.
Well, so then we were there and his sister was leaving and I was like, oh man, I don't know if I'll ever see him again. So I wrote down my phone number and I said, if your brother's interested, here's my phone number. But if he's not interested, don't give him my phone number, I said, because if he's not interested, I don't want to look pushy or anything. So I said, here's my phone number if he's interested. But if he's not, just, just throw it away.
Yeah, so then after dinner, I think we went back to the house, to my parents' house, where we were doing some kind of thing to basically send off my sister.
Yeah. Okay, wait, I think we need to interject something right here. So in the last video, we were talking about Mike being homeless and he had to leave his parents' house. So in the meantime, you had gone back and apologized for your portion of the part that happened.
Well, I did that part before I was homeless.
So you were on speaking terms with your parents.
Yeah.
So anyway, so that's, just so you know.
Yeah. So so I was at that house with them, and my sister said, hey, what did you think about that girl at the fudge shop? And I said, I really liked her a lot. She's like, well, she gave me her phone number to give you. And I was like, yes, okay. And so I called her.
I can't believe I was so forward.
I think I called you right away.
Yeah.
And at the time, so I called Tara right away, and we talked for a long time.
Did you call me from your parents' house or from your house?
Well, I think I called you from my house, actually.
Yeah, so you drove home to Fort Collins and then...
Yeah, so I drove home, but I called as soon as I got there, and we talked for a couple of hours.
Yeah.
And she told me that she was at her little house there. Well, I didn't know anything about her house at the time, but she told me she was there and that her landlady was having a party, and she was supposed to be at the party, and she had just come upstairs to get chairs and happened to hear the phone ring.
I didn't really want to go to the party. It was just kind of one of those things where I was like, well, okay, I guess I'll go show up for a little bit. And then she was like, well, do you have any chairs? Okay. So I went and got chairs, phone rang, and then we talked for a couple of hours.
Yeah, she said something like that at this party, and so I was thinking this is going to be a short call, but a couple of hours.
Yeah.
And then the next day I said, hey, do you want to go out maybe to the national park or something? And so the next day, early in the morning, we met to go to the national park.
Yeah, I don't know why we did so early. Well, it must not have been too early because we were able to get our Subway before we went. So it was probably like 10 or 11. Because Subway was open at like 10 or something.
Oh, okay.
And we got Subway before, and we took it to the
it was
park.
Just early in our...
Yeah, in our early 20s. 10 o'clock in the morning was early.
Well, and also I lived almost an hour away from Estes Park, and Tara lived 20, 30 minutes away in a different direction.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And did we meet in Estes? I can't remember.
You mean that day?
Yeah.
I think we met at my parents' house. I think I drove up there, and then I parked my car there, and then you
took my
from
car.
there.
Okay. Yeah, because you had a big jalopy beater.
Because we didn't want to. Basically, we needed a place. We didn't want to drive two cars, and so that was a place I could park my car, and no, it wasn't going to get towed away. Hopefully,
he had a beater car, and it was a beater car. Sorry, honey, but
it was a nice car. It was a 1973 Ford Torino.
Yeah, and he could barely see over the steering wheels because the seat had flattened so much.
All right, okay. It was good for me. I was thankful. It had previously been my own. Just kidding.
So our first date, we went to the Rocky Mountain National Park, and we drove around. There's like all kinds of things you can see. The alluvial fan, Bear Lake, Little Horseshoe. You can see all these really pretty things. And so we ate our lunch, and so that was our first date. But our first date was like, I don't know, it was 10 o'clock in the morning when we met, and it was like 10 or 11 at night before we even...
It was even later. It was after midnight.
Was it?
Because I remember we were saying,
really
wow, that was like the longest date ever.
Yeah.
I don't know if we called it a date, but anyway.
Yeah. And so that was our first date. And then we started dating after that. And we got married. So we dated 3 months. And then in the meantime, I had moved to my apartment in Estes, then the place that had water running through it. And
did you already tell that story?
Yeah. And Mike helped me kind of fix it up a little bit because I exchanged rent for fixing it up, and you helped me did you help me do painting or whatever?
Yeah, so how much of this do we want to tell in this video?
Well, I don't know. You can tell a bit more. I guess.
Well, so it was only a day or two after our first date day. I think, no, it was a few days that I didn't call you back, and I was trying to not be too desperate seeming. So I waited a few days, and then she called me to tell me I'd forgotten my sunglasses. Is that what you said? So I think that same day we went, she was starting a little craft store. Or she had rented a space in a craft store in Estes Park.
Yeah.
And so her mom came out to help her set up the space in the craft store. And I thought, oh, hey, I'll come along. And I kind of went and helped with that too.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And so if we fast forward a little bit.
I was making dried flower arrangements and potpourri and putting them in this craft store.
And I don't know, I one time told Tara, but I think I felt slightly deflated because she didn't feel the same. But I told her, like, after we had been married a long time, I pretty much knew from the beginning that we were going to get married. And I think you said you weren't quite that sure. But the conversation seemed to indicate she was very interested early on, too. And it was only 3 months. But when she had to leave that little apartment, she needed a place to go, and she was kind of wanting to get out really quick. Or were you already?
Yeah.
I forgot how it ended up that you were supposed to leave. Did you decide to leave, or she told you were leaving?
She put an eviction notice because she had someone else who would pay more rent than I did. Yeah.
Okay. So
she
really,
evicted me.
So she was looking for places to rent, and I was kind of sitting there with her a lot of times looking at that, and we said, we said, "Oh wow, well, here's one place it's constantly listed and not taken, but every place was always gone in those
Yeah.
days." And I said, "Man, I think that means there's something wrong with it. There's some reason why they don't want to rent it. We should find out what that is, and maybe we could get a deal."
Mhm.
So,
And we weren't moving in together at that
no,
point. We
but
were just kind of talking.
but weren't we already
If
engaged?
Not yet,
Or
but we
knew
were talking about getting married. So
And-
we were thinking, okay, if we could get this deal, then after we get married, yeah.
Yeah, and I was still living with my roommates in the other city.
Yeah.
But what we thought is maybe we could get her into a place, and if we could get her a good enough price on it, then she could live there until we got married, and then when the price went up, hopefully then we'd be married and then I could move in. So so what?
So I got it basically rent free for several months because we were fixing it up.
Yeah, and we had moved into it.
Mm-hmm.
I say we moved into it. She moved into it. When we went to look at it, the lady showed it to us, and it smelled like cats.
Smoke.
It was like 100-year-old apartment building that was an okay apartment, but the people previously had basically made it. It looked like it was a hippie commune.
Funhouse commune type thing, yeah.
Because they had taken all the doors off and the doors were gone, and they had all these like really sheer like 60s curtain things over the bathroom door and next to the stove.
And there was drips of smoke stuff all over the walls, nicotine and who knows what else, smoke stuff all over the walls. And
yeah, so we didn't know how long the place had been vacant, but it had been a pretty nasty, skanky place that we could tell had potential. So we said to the lady, "Hey, how about if we fix this up for you? You can pay for the supplies, and we'll do all the work." And in exchange, I think we agreed to no rent for 3 months and half rent for the rest of the year.
So it was no rent. Yeah, that's what it was.
It was no rent for 3 months and half rent for the rest of the year after that.
So it ended up being like $350 a month because her rent was $700 a month for this place, which was why it wasn't rented. But
it turns out that we worked together to fix it up, and I'm sorry. It was a little bit bumpy for us working together on that, but we was
when we weren't sure if we were going to get married.
But we stripped all the floors and we got some doors and we put the doors on and we took down the sheer curtains and we cleaned all the smoke stuff off. We did a whole lot of work in there to get the whole place really in spotless condition. Yeah. But we really worked hard on it, and it only took us less than a week, right?
Yeah, it was like a week or 10 days or something. It wasn't very long.
Yeah, so for working on it reasonably for that amount of time, it turned out to be a great deal for her to have no rent while she was there, and then for us to have half rent after we got married. So that was a really great way to start that, and that ended up being our apartment after we got married. Yeah, which was really cool. Yeah, I guess I don't want to get into too many stories because more things are coming to mind.
Why? What else is coming to your mind?
I was just thinking when we went on our honeymoon, we spent a couple days in town, at the edge of town, in a mountain resort that we really wanted to go to. It was the same one with the cabin that you guys might have seen us in that video a few years back.
With the big elk, yeah.
And
we got locked out.
Then we were going to go on this road trip, and I remember we stopped at the apartment, and your mom was staying there at that time. So it was a cute little place.
Yeah, and I will say, so going back to when we were dating, that first day, I did tell him, I said, "I'm sick." And I said, I kind of said, "Are you sure you want to be going out with somebody who's sick?" And he's like, "Oh, yeah, no problem. Oh, yeah, no problem."
I was thinking, well, if this is what sick is, that's not too bad.
So what he didn't understand, though, was, I would go out and date. I'd go on a date with him, and then I would be in bed for hours afterwards, or even days.
And we didn't go out every day either, because I lived pretty far from her.
He lived an hour away, and it was long distance from his house to my house, and it was a little bit over an hour drive. And so what he would do is he would call his parents' house, and his parents would forward their phone to my house, so he didn't have to pay long distance to call me.
Yeah, because back in those days, it wasn't like now where pretty much everybody has the long distance included in their bill. And it was like 25 cents a minute or something. You could easily rack up hundreds of dollars in phone bills. But it was local from me to my parents' house and local from their house to her house. And they agreed. They agreed to, if I called them, to forward the phone, and then I would call, and it would forward on
Yeah.
to her as a local call, and then they would unforward the phone because then it was a direct call. And so it was a little bit of a backwards way to do it,
So I
but
could never call you,
yeah, but the idea
but
was to try to make
yeah.
sure that we were able to do it without spending too much money.
Yeah. So
So,
that was one thing we did. We would go out like on the weekends, and then during the week you would call me um through your parents. And I did keep telling him, but he never really saw me sick. You know, we didn't live together before we got married, so it was like he only saw me when we were on dates. And of course I was looking my best. And even when I wasn't feeling good, I was still trying to act like I was feeling good.
yeah.
And so, yeah, he had no idea how hard it was going to be until after we got married, and then it kind of hit you like a boulder.
Yeah, I was a little
after
shocked
we were
then. Do
married.
we want to save that for another
Yeah, so we'll
video?
save that for another one. But anyway,
And what about do we want to save the just before we got our engagement? All that, save that. Yeah, that'll
oh,
probably be its own video.
yeah, we can talk about that on the next video, I guess. So,
Okay.
so anyway, that's how we met. Was at the fudge shop. I worked at the same place as his sister, and
Oh, I do have to say, one of my first impressions. I'm just being straight up honest here. As a guy, I was like, "Oh, look at her. She's cute. Look at she's got that apron. She's making fudge and candy. How perfect is that?" So I'm just being real, folks. So
now you're like, would you stop making fudge and candy?
yeah, well, that's true. But the other thing is that I would say almost all of our dates were going to the national park,
Yeah.
and I think, did I have well, anyway, you could get an annual pass, and one of us, probably me, had bought an annual pass to go into the park, and once you buy it, it's no charge the rest of the year. So we went there for pretty much every date for a long time.
Yeah.
And that was one way we spent like no money.
Well, and
Still
we
had a
did
great
go out
time.
to eat on that first date. We did go out to eat, and it was pretty expensive. I think it was like
I was
$15.
trying to impress her, and I was still doing my credit card thing a little bit, and I was really trying to impress her, and neither one of us was really impressed.
Yeah.
It was the newest upscale place in Estes Park, and we were
Yeah.
thinking, well, that wasn't worth it.
Yeah, it was Ed's Cantina, and it was okay, but it wasn't anything to write home about. But all right, guys, so that's how we met. Please visit us at livingonadime.com, and we will see you guys next time.